Welcome. Okay, today I'm going to talk about simple ways to reduce your risk of dementia. And this is so important because if you look at the global dementia cases, they are skyrocketing. I've been in this field for nearly 40 years and I practiced for 25, and a lot of my patients I worked with had dementia and Alzheimer's, and I used to do a lot of preventative work as well. I used to work with groups to help them to apply certain principles to help them to prevent dementias and to be proactively preparing and looking after your mind-brain-body connection. But let's have a look at this here. It is a problem, okay? It's skyrocketing. We have an extended life expectancy. So people, because of medical technology, people are kept alive for longer. But that doesn't necessarily mean that that length of life is also equivalent to quality. So if you live longer, but you've got dementia, that's a problem. We're also seeing dementia starting much younger. So for example, when I first started practicing, most of our Alzheimer's and dementia patients were in their 70s, 80s, most of them in their 80s. That's changing. People as young as in their 30s and 40s are getting early Alzheimer's, early diagnosed Alzheimer's, and early stage Alzheimer's. We're even seeing elements of dementia in people in their 30s and their 40s and their 50s, which is really kind of scary. So we have to look at a lot of factors. And if we have a look, that there's obviously something that we're doing wrong, and there's a lot more research needed, but there's certain patterns we can identify, and there's certain things we can do to help. I've been doing these for years to prevent getting dementia, and as I said, I did with my patients, and I'm going to share some of these principles with you. But just to look at the statistics, by 2025, 153 million people globally could be living with dementia. And the progress has been very slow. And there isn't really much success. It's more just sort of maintenance. So while we still look for the elusive cure, which I think is not just going to be one thing, it's never just a drug. It's always going to be a combination of factors and lifestyle factors. We do see that there is a lot of research looking at total lifestyle factors. And we do know that in the last 10 years, there's been a lot of emphasis on people eating even longer, 20 years. 15, 20 years on sleep, people eating healthier, different types of diets and that sort of thing. So we'll touch on that. And those are very important because the mind, brain and body, although separate, work together as a unit. So the mind needs the brain and the body in order for you to show up. Like the mind is poured into the brain and the body. Kind of think of the brain and body as a balloon, and your mind is kind of poured into that and it's filling it up. One funny, silly way of thinking about it, but your mind is driving your brain and your body. Your mind is making your heart beat. It's influencing your blood pressure. It's driving your hormone system. It is driving your hypothalamic pituitary axis. It's helping with your lungs and breathing. It's pretty much driving everything. When you dead, your mind is no longer functioning in your body, and your body then disintegrates. So as soon as the mind, which you could see as a spirit or soul, moves out, basically your body's, the energy of your body goes. And I mean, within seconds of dying, your heart stops beating, your brain, within 20 seconds, your brain is flatline. So that energy that is from life, from you listening to me talking, being alive, that is driving how we function. And we've got to work on our mind and our brain and our body, because they're all working together as a unit, which is why everything I teach in my podcasts on these neurolives, doing the neurocycle, all the things that you're learning are all principles helping you to manage your mind so that you make good decisions that will help you eat in a healthier way that works for your bio-individuality of your body, and exercise and build good habits and manage stress. But we've got to get our mind to do that. You can know about good eating, you can know about stress management, you can know about dealing with trauma, but you can't just have the knowledge. Knowledge is one part of that energy that's definitely worth having, that knowledge, but you need to also be able to apply it. So for us to thrive, we need to start being able to apply that knowledge. And what's this got to do with dementia? Everything. Because how you managing your mind is going to influence how we put energy into the brain and the body, and how well we are running the brain and the body. And if we're constantly suppressing trauma, constantly getting worked up and irritated, constantly letting the little things of life completely make us explode and go into these spirals, constantly getting worked up about different things, not managing those, or sort of managing and then moving on, getting stuck in traumas, not doing work to getting out of that revolving trauma cycle. All those sorts of things are putting very distorted energy into the brain and the body, damaging the brain and the body. And then we see that coming out with various different biomarkers, increased inflammation and problems with the hormone system and autoimmune system and cardiovascular and high blood pressure and all these things. So there is a direct link between what we're doing with our mind and how our body's responding. And that's psychoneurobiology. So essentially, over time, this accumulates, and then you're going to have potential, you're increasing your risk of dementia and Alzheimer's and damaging your brain, your body, and increasing your chance of getting illnesses in your body. So yes, we want to live longer, but we want to live longer with quality. Okay, you don't want to be living till 110, but you've had dementia since you were 50 or something. I mean, what quality of life is that? What we do have in our hands, because we don't have progress towards a cure has been slow. What we do have in our hands is our mind, our aliveness. So we can use our mind to understand proactively how to drive our mind in the right direction. So everything that happens is going to go through your mind. Your mind filters it and puts it in your brain and your body. And your mind has got the messy part and it's got the wise part. And so we can learn to, initially we're kind of in the messy part as we go through the day, but we can learn to stand back and observe that messiness, observe our reactions, observe that irritation, that little fight, that trauma that's popping up in some way in our life, in anger or something. We can do that. And we can actually choose to keep it going, and you neuroplastically will wire that in, but in a unhealthy way. So the wiring that results from not managing our mind is increasing our risk of dementia because it's distorting neural networks, neurochemistry, all the entire biology of our body, in fact. You know, our heart has 40,000 neurons. Our gut has as many neurons as our brain. So it's not just the brain. Dementia is not just the brain. The dementia is the brain, the heart, the gut, the entire body. And your mind is embodied. Your mind is driving the process. So what you do have in your hands is your mind. And that doesn't cost you anything. You just got to get your mind, understand how to use your mind. And therefore, while you're waiting for this elusive drug to suddenly stop it, that you're going to take this magic pill, that's not going to happen. Hasn't happened. It's not going to happen. Certainly, I have no doubt we'll develop drugs that are going to help relieve symptoms and maybe slow down progression and definitely stimulate various different types of healing that can take place. Who knows what's going to come in the future, but it hasn't been very successful up to this point. So in my practice, from the beginning of my practice, I worked, as I mentioned, with a lot of people with dementia and Alzheimer's, and I would work with families proactively if there was someone already quite advanced with their dementia to help them not fear, because if you fear that you're going to get dementia, because if in case we've been told a lot about how it passes through families, Alzheimer's and so on, that fear can actually accelerate that process. So if you're fearing it, it's almost worse. You're kind of almost bringing it on. So we don't want to have fear that we're going to get Alzheimer's. I don't want to induce fear in you now. And if I have, I apologize. I'm not trying to make you scared. I'm trying to make you aware that it is getting worse. We don't have the drug, but we can be proactive. So I want to make you excited as well, because this is what I would do with my families in my practice. I would work with the people with dementia, and there's certain things that you can do to help slow down the process and help and into mind stuff that you can do to help them function more efficiently. But at the same time, you want to work with the families proactively. And I've been using these things for myself for years as well, and my family and friends and patients, other patients that I've worked with. All the things I'm teaching you, literally, if you're using the neurocycle and you are trying to apply the principles that I teach in my NeuroLives and my podcast, you are already doing dementia prevention because you're learning to manage your mind. Number one key in preventing dementia is to get your mind under control, because when your mind's under control, you will sleep better. When your mind's under control, you will make better food choices. You will exercise. You will choose to do things you will recognize those habits that are messing your relationships up or whatever, and you'll do something about them. Okay, so let's have a look at more specifically at some principles to help you. So we don't have to wait around for treatment, getting scared, thinking, oh my gosh, am I going to be one of the statistics? No, you don't have to be. You can proactively move forward. There are preventative things that you can do proactively now, and they're in your hands, they're in your mind. You don't have to go externally. Okay, so I'm going to cover some basic principles. Obviously, this is a big topic, but if you can just do these and get into the neurocycle, you are doing a great, huge, massive thing towards preventing dementia in your life. Okay, so eyes and ears, tip number one. Vision is very closely related to our cognitive health, and research shows that the visual sensitivity can predict dementia 12 years before it's formally diagnosed. So we need to look after our eyes. We need to go for regular eye checks. We need to check if you have the potential of things like glaucoma. You need to make sure that you are looking after your eyes. Don't take them for granted. You know, if you have suffered from dry eyes, for example, I suffer from dry eyes, so I have drops. There's glaucoma in my family, so I go for annual glaucoma checks. I go for checks. I wear glasses, so when I'm driving, so I look after your eyes. Okay, it's one of the most complex. Your eyes are so complex, so beautifully complex, and the complexity needs to be cared for. And there is a lot of research showing that as our vision changes, that can actually affect dementia. So it can affect, as our vision changes, it can be a sign. Not always, this is not a 100% guarantee, but looking at visual sensitivity, as I said up there, it can predict dementia 12 years before it's formally diagnosed. So if you've got that level of visual sensitivity and they pick up the certain symptoms, that's 12 years ahead. You can do stuff to prevent that. You can make sure you're looking after your eyes. You can do all these other things I'm going to tell you. So what can you do? So this is so great. This is such a simple, easy thing to help you. You're going to be so excited about this because I'm telling you can literally watch TV to help you prevent dementia. Okay, so horizontal and vertical eye movements. Okay, so horizontal, see how my eyes are moving, and vertical eye movements are good to exercise your eyes and to help with preventing dementia in your brain. Okay, so you can do this in many different ways, but the easiest way is to read. When you read, when you read a book, you are reading from left to right. And if you follow your finger, even better, because you're getting that wonderful exercise that's helping with processing as well. Because as you're doing that left to right movement, you're also processing. So if there's something that you're not dealing with, like if you've got a suppressed trauma or you're dealing with something that's happened to you, or you are kind of irritated or whatever, that reading from left to right actually can help bring up stuff and make you aware. And then you can respond to those signals and you can do a neurocycle and deal with it. Okay. So horizontal and vertical eye movements associated with reading, with watching TV, with playing computer games, even just going for walks in nature and looking at everything. That movement is very, very good for your visual sensitivity. And so everyone's doing that. So you might be thinking, well, everyone does it anyway. Don't most people, read and watch TV? Obviously it's balanced. You want to read books and you want to read on Kindle or whatever and watch TV and maybe play computer games and go for walks and to be aware of looking, not just like tunnel vision. When you're walking, look at everything. Also do the peripheral vision thing, stare ahead and then see what you can see out the side. Can you see how my eyes are moving from left to right? Okay, that is really good. So when you're walking down, make sure that you look at things up, look down. And you don't have to do that the whole way. You can obviously also turn your head, but try every day to practice a little bit of that, which can help improve your visual sensitivity. Okay. Then let's look at eyes and ears, okay? Hearing is also very closely linked to cognitive decline. So even low levels of hearing loss have been associated with increased dementia risk. I'm also an audiologist. I don't practice anymore. But a lot of our patients that when I was still practicing that had dementia, we saw the progress that as their hearing got worse, so did their cognitive decline kind of match it. So hearing well is so important for dementia prevention. And basically, so even low levels of hearing loss have been associated with increased dementia risk. So even low levels increases of hearing loss, increases your susceptibility to dementia, and a decrease in memory and thinking skills. So low level hearing loss will affect memory, thinking skills, cognitive functioning, okay, and also an increased risk for dementia. So look after your eyes and ears. Hearing loss has also been shown to be linked to quicker shrinkage in areas of the brain responsible for processing sounds and memories, and also integrating parietal cortex, integrating sounds and memories too. So what can you do? Get regular hearing tests. Don't just assume or don't just deal with it when it's symptomatic. Go get a regular hearing test every couple of years or every year. Or if you do have a hearing loss, make sure that you go very, very regularly. Okay. If you have a hearing loss, go regularly, and if necessary, get hearing aids. Not everyone needs a hearing aid, and there's also so much that has advanced since I started in this field. Cochlear implants, and there's so many wonderful things that you can do. Hearing, they are well trained. I have on my team, and I'm going to actually do a podcast, bring him on to do a discussion about this. But things like tinnitus also set you up for ringing in the ears, can set you up for dementia. Hearing loss, you can actually you can do therapy, auditory processing therapy, to help you make sure that you have good hearing acuity. So if you're noticing that you're not hearing so well, don't just leave it. Go get a test. Go to an audiologist. A well-trained audiologist will also be able to give you certain types of therapy to help you with your hearing. And if you need a hearing aid, do it. Don't be shy to wear a hearing aid. Hearing is more important than what it looks like, and you get amazing ones now. And then maybe you're a candidate even for cochlear implants. Okay. Also be aware, just general things that you can do. Be aware of noise-induced hearing loss from loud sounds and control sound levels. Okay. So if you're constantly in loud sounds, you could start getting a noise-induced hearing loss. If you constantly have your earphones so close to your eardrums and you're playing that music so loud, you're putting so much strain on your eardrums and so much strain on the auditory nerves going into your brain. So be very careful of that. Walk away from loud noise if possible. Take breaks from noise. Have periods where it's silent, that you don't have any noise. Well, the birds chirping and general noise around. Avoid loud, noisy activity in places. Obviously, you can't do it all the time, but try and really keep it under control. Use hearing protection if you have a job where there's a lot of noise, use hearing protection. Apply the 60-60 rule. Listening to music, for example, listening to music at 60% of your that should be device's volume for 60 minutes at a time, then take a break. So 60%, so you're listening to music, it's 60-60 rule. Listening to music at 60% of your device's volume for 60 minutes at a time, and then take a break. Okay? So don't put it full blast and don't go for hours. 60% volume, 60 minutes, take a break. Okay? Tip 2. So the first tip is your eyes and ears. Tip 2, keep on learning. Guys, you need to keep learning. The older you get, that doesn't mean you stop learning. Our brain and mind and body is desperate for knowledge. You're wired to learn. You're wired to keep gaining new knowledge. That's why every time maybe when you make a mistake or you fail, it's a learning experience. It's something goes wrong, you're learning. Things happen, you're learning from it. Like all our tech crashed in our studio just an hour ago doing an interview. And I'm not tech, I don't run the studio, but I'm here on my own today running the studio, and I had to try and fix it, and I had to learn, and I had to ask questions, and that is good. So instead of me freaking out and thinking, oh my gosh, I've wasted time and whatever, I turned it into a learning experience. The more you learn, the more you drive neuroplasticity in the right direction. The more you add networks, the more you add richness to the networks, the more you activate the unlimited resilience. The more you learn, the more you lower your dementia risk. This is so established in the literature, so established scientifically. I did some of this research as well. Directing neuroplasticity is essential. So you want to learn the right thing. You don't want to, whatever you think about the most, it's going to grow. So it's called the quantum Zeno effect in quantum physics. The repeated effort that makes learning take place. So if there's a repeated effort, it makes learning take place. And in the neurocycle, you're doing this very organized, sequence-guided, repeated effort that makes learning take place. So it's essential that you also check the direction. So the plastic paradox, you don't want to learn toxic stuff. So if you don't want to get stuck in a trauma and get into that revolving door cycle, because that's building, and that's neuroplasticity going in the wrong direction, that will set you up for dementia. So you want to catch those traumas, break them down, sort them out, and drive it in the healthy direction. So directing neuroplasticity is essential. Okay. So you don't want to learn the wrong stuff. You want to learn the right stuff. So this learning is learning from mistakes. It's learning to redirect traumas and things and bad habits. It's also learning knowledge. learn new knowledge. Like I had to learn tech stuff earlier on. And I'm always, when I write a science paper, I have to go and read new research. When I write a book, I'm doing new research. I've got multiple degrees. You don't have to get degrees, but doing a degree is fantastic for your brain. My kids once said to me, oh my gosh, because all of them been through university and got degrees and so on. And they said a couple of times, they said to me, this is a waste of time. It's not giving me practical skills. I said, no, the kind of brain, mind, body connection you've built from going through formal learning is absolutely essential to mental and physical fitness and dementia prevention. So it's never a waste to learn something, never. Some research shows that there could be as much as an 11% drop for each additional year spent learning. 11% drop in terms of risk for dementia. I didn't put that sentence in properly. Okay, so some research shows that there could be as much as an 11% drop for each additional year spent learning. 11% drop in your risk for dementia. And that V shouldn't be between the that and the there, just in case you think I missed it. I didn't, okay? There is a mountain of research in education's favor, and it's convincing and it's long established. Okay, I've been in this for years, been doing this for years. Learning is so important. If you say you don't like learning, don't want formal education, go do some courses for non-exam purposes. There's so many wonderful things you can learn online. There's so many great things to learn. Find something you're interested in, but put yourself into a learning mode. Okay, so Tip 3, manage your stress. Okay. This I talk about constantly in the Neurocycle, constantly on this podcast. The more you manage your stress by managing your mind, the more you lower your dementia risk. Okay. Stress is good for you. So when I talk about managing your stress, I'm talking about keeping yourself in good stress that helps you stay focused, intelligent, creative, building your mind, brain, and body in beautiful ways. But when you feel out of control and you're not managing it, then that stress kind of kicks back at you. And it's like the boomerang coming back in your face, and it becomes toxic stress, and then it works against you. So everything, all the neurochemistry and everything goes haywire, and then it doesn't help you. And if that is how you live your life, that is setting you up for dementia. Okay, so the more you manage your stress, the more you neurocycle, the more you deal with those issues, the more you learn to also use the neurocycle to manage the day-to-day stuff, the things that can go wrong. I mean, like waking up in the morning and you've got a leak in your house, and things that can really throw you off because you didn't plan it for the day. Get irritated, get it out, do the neurocycle, but now watch your action, move forward, okay? So managing your stress, the moment by moment, day-to-day stuff, the bad habits, and the toxic traumas, okay? Directing neuroplasticity in the right direction is essential to prevent cognitive decline. I've said this so many times, and I think you're getting the message. Managing and not suppressing trauma, dealing with toxic habits, these are absolutely key in preventing dementias. Okay. Here's a study. Highly stressful experiences age the brain more quickly. Okay. So if you have highly stressful experiences that aren't managed, that should have been added in there. This is directly from the study. Highly stressful experiences we can handle if we know how to manage them. And that's why I always try to equip you. That's what the Neurocycle is also doing. It's equipping you with a way of dealing with that energy that comes at you in this forceful way that makes you feel thrown. And that can, if you just stay in that mode and then you don't really deal with it, and you kind of just sort of get through it, but you never really resolve that, and then you in this high level of tension without the release, that makes the stress work against you, and that cumulatively over time is going to set you up for dementias. It's going to set you up for all kinds of physical and mental issues. Okay, so it's not overnight. I'm stressed today, I'm going to have dementia tomorrow. It's over time. Okay, so in this study, so highly stressful experiences will age the brain more quickly. So you'll get everything, not only the brain, your body, your mind, brain, and body will all age much quicker if you don't manage, keep the stress in the right place, and if it gets toxic, get it back again. Okay? So in a study of 1,320 people, each stressful experience, such as being fired or facing a financial crisis, aged the brain by 4 years. So that's unmanaged, guys. This is wording directly from the study. So I just want to say unmanaged. So if you don't deal with it and it just stays in you as this like cluster of toxic neural knotted networks, and you kind of get through it, but you don't deal with this, those knotted networks over time in your brain, also in your cells of your body, are then affecting the neurochemistry, that way your heart pumps blood, that your blood pressure, your cardiovascular health, your immune health. You get inflammation, your immune system gets confused. That's where autoimmune issues come from, and so on and so on. So age the brain by 4 years. So unmanaged is adding literally 4 years of aging to your brain. So if you've got 10 things unmanaged, 10 times 4 is like 40 years added to, like you've aged by 40 years. I mean, it's like a weird math to do. It's not quite like that, but it just gives you an idea. You are aging your brain by 4 years every time you don't deal with stress. That's why I'm so hot on the neurocycle, okay? So, and giving you these tools to do this. This suggests a cumulative effect for stress. So stress adds, with each stressful event increasing the risk of dementia. This is what the study's saying. The study's authors argue that this might help explain why groups such as African Americans, who tend to face higher rates of stress, also have higher rates of dementia. And we see this, there's certain groups of people that have higher rates of dementia, and if you look at their lifestyle, they just stress, cumulative stress with no way of, like, no sort of good management. And that's why we have to cross the board. This is a whole social thing. We have to change this on a socioeconomic level as well. So it starts with us. I mean, we, as an individual, as we're getting ourselves right, we can then help others. We can then say, this is working for me, and reach out and help others.